Is that okay?
Yeah.
I grew up in leafy Buckinghamshire. I was born in a house, not in a hospital, in Prince's Risborough. I'm one of 4 children. I've got a brother and 2 sisters. Unfortunately, I had one issue, which was a rather large growth growing over the back of one of my legs, which really where some of the issues started, and I had to go into hospital to have surgery. I must have been in hospital for a couple of days before the operation, so I remember very clearly being able to run down to the corridor to the play area at the end, and there was a couple of particular toys that I loved. There was a lovely spinning top that I was very intrigued by, and a rocking horse which I absolutely adored. Having been back to the hospital many years later, I can visualise it was a very long, narrow tunnel almost of a room. The room that I was admitted to was on my own, and it did have a very big oversized cot in the corner. I remember being painted a very bright yellow colour, very clear memory of that, and the windows were quite high up, so I couldn't actually see out the window, and it was frosted glass. Because even standing up in the cot, I couldn't quite see through the window area. Doors were shut all the time. They weren't left open, they were always closed, as I could remember. And quite distinct smells on the ward as well. I mean, obviously you get a very clinical and hospital smell anyway on the wards. It was a very clear smell of tobacco. It's like a cigar smell that I could smell. Following my operation, I was obviously returned to the ward, to the little side room. And there were lots of people coming to and from the ward, and in those days people could just walk into the ward. It wasn't like it is now where everything's buzzers at the door and that sort of thing. It's very much at the sister's discretion who comes into the ward, but it was very sort of open in that respect. I have very clear memory though one day when there seemed to be a lot of people bustling around outside my room, a lot of noise going on, and I could hear voices out there, a very clear voice saying, one of the nurses saying, whilst in front of the door, "No, this person's asleep in here, you can't go in this room." And I can remember myself saying, I'm not asleep, it's okay." And the lady came in to see me, and she pushed my head down very firmly onto the pillow, but kindly but firmly, and said, "Pretend you're asleep." And I just looked at her, quite fearful, because I was only 4 years old, and obviously didn't want to do anything that was wrong, and just kept very quiet at that point. And wasn't really sure what else was going on, but I could still hear lots of noise outside. I suppose my memories really now would be looking back at what actually happened on that day. Obviously this was, at the time that I was there, was Jimmy Saville was at his most prolific. History since then, it's been told very clearly that there were a number of attacks that he had on young people and on nursing staff. People obviously knew what was going on, but they just didn't want to say anything. Things like these, obviously, they were going on. I was there on the ward, and I wouldn't think at the time, I didn't think at the time that there was anything particularly wrong. It's only later on in life, as things have come to the forefront in the news, and investigations took place, that it started to make me think and connect what I went through and what happened then. I feel sometimes, it could so easily have been me. I was very lucky that the nurse was there at the time, and she could recognise that it was what was going to happen, or could possibly have happened, and tried to stop things from escalating. But was it the next person in the next door room to me? Was it the person the next day? How will I ever know that? But it wasn't me, and I feel very lucky in some respects for that.